Hello, Sam-ariffic science fans! Welcome to another Book Rambles video, the series where I take a little break from science to talk about my favorite fantasy books. Today, we're talking about Wings of Fire by T. Sutherland. A more obscure part of the Wings of Fire series are the Winglets, a collection of short stories from the point of view of side characters intended to give more depth to them. Now, I thought the Winglets were ended with 4 because we haven't had a new one in nearly a decade, but I was wrong. A couple of weeks ago, T. Sutherland said, "Hey, I'm releasing a Winglet in 12 days." And she did. And after reading it, I decided I wanted to talk about it. But why stop here? This is just a short story. So why don't I talk about the other 4 Winglets as well? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do today. Giving my thoughts on, talking about, and unfolding the world of Winglets. The first Winglet was Prisoner from the point of view of Fierceteeth, and my thoughts on it changed by the day. Sometimes I think it was really good and did exactly what it was supposed to, but other times I think it was apparent Tui was still getting used to the shorter format and screwed up the pacing and didn't make Fierceteeth any more likable. It feels obvious that this Winglet was written to try and add on to Fierceteeth and Strongwing's relationship, and it did that fine. It shows us what Fierceteeth originally thought of her eventual mate, and eventually when he went to Hout by taking her to the rainforest for the first time. It still feels like Wings of Fire continuously struggles with writing romance, and well, this one isn't the worst, it's not the best either. It's also worth noting that in this book, literally nothing happened. We learn about Fierceteeth and Strongwing's past, and while their past sucked, there's still no plot, unless you count Fierceteeth's goal of manipulating the guard. The other winglets all have some action, but this one had basically none. Like I said, it's obvious Tui was still getting used to the shorter format, until she chose a relatively simple story to tell, and one that does come back later in Book 9 when Fierceteeth, Strongwings, and 5 Sandwings all go to the rainforest to try and kill the Rainwing/Nightwing Queen. The one final thing I want to say is that since it's told by letters from Fierceteeth, all of them in first person, so the other characters don't get a lot to shine. So, my thoughts on this winglet. It did what it set out to do in developing the characters and relationship, but not much else. And the pacing was not great, and even the characters were just meh. 3 stars. The second winglet is Assassin, with Dethbringer as its protagonist. This winglet definitely had a lot more plot than the first, and the assassination of Tempest was really good. The moral of the story was to not always go with the crowd and follow orders. Dethbringer started the story doing just that, but after he loses his mother, he finally begins to think for himself. This is a really important moral that I'll talk about more with the next winglet. But there is still more I need to say about Assassin first. In the main series, specifically the second arc, Dethbringer is reduced to a mindless simp for glory. It is honestly a pretty 2D character, but in his own winglet he is so good. He's torn between being obedient and doing what is right. But we also, earlier in the story, before his character arc is complete, see him excited, confused, curious, and ready. Seeing his transformation is so satisfying, and if you ignore the main series, Dethbringer is easily one of my favorite characters. The book is also great for giving us some world building. First of all, we see that the Mudwings were originally allied with Blister before the Sea Wings blamed them for killing Tempest. It's also great to see King Gil of the Sea Wings with his sanity still intact. Tempest is also an interesting character I'd love to see more of. My only real complaint about this book is that Quickstrike is just a meh character, but the winglet was pretty short, so I guess we couldn't make all 3-dimensional characters. I give this winglet 4 stars. Now we've reached my personal favorite winglet, Winglets number 3, Deserters. This book is from the point of view of Sixclaws, named for his 6th claw on his talons. The winglet was really good, and I love how Sixclaws learns the same moral as Dethbringer. Dethbringer decides to do the right thing, realizing Sixclaws is having the same problem he had just recently and doesn't want Sixclaws to lose Dune, the same way he lost his mother. Having the same moral twice can feel kind of weird, but it worked well here. I also love getting to see what it's like in the army during the War of Sandwing Succession, and seeing more of Sixclaws. The winglet added depth to a character I thought nothing about, not once, but twice. It did the same thing with Dune, and rereading Book 1 and Dune's death after knowing what happened in Deserter hurts. There's only one way to rate this book, 5 stars. Winglets number 4, Runaway, is the worst winglet by far. It tries to add more to the relationship between Foeslayer and Arctic, but fails with the ending already showing them drifting apart. It also tries to have 3 rotating protagonists in one short story, which just feels too rushed. Yeah, this book's a bit of a mess. It tries to make Arctic and Foeslayer's relationship more believable, but fails with the ending when they're already starting to argue. We know it has to happen at some point, but if the goal of the story is to make a romance, don't end with them arguing. The book is also distracted with Snowflake and Snowflocks, probably too much, which again made the story worse. I don't hate them though because the presence does add some stakes to the story. As for the other point of view characters, Foeslayer is okay but also unrecognizable from Darkstalker Legends, being very hyper curious and kind of annoying here. It can be inferred that this change happened because of her life with Arctic, but I do feel like the change was a bit too dramatic. Arctic was obviously better here than in Darkstalker Legends, which is good, but he is again completely different. I'm gonna have to rank this book 2.5 stars. And finally, the reason for making this video, the newest Winglet, Winglet number 5, Heroes. This book had Prince Cliff of the Skywings as a point of view dragon. Whoa, what a great Winglet. The gamble Ruby took with her life was such a high-risk, high-reward thing that's so cool and definitely something Ruby and Scarlet would do. And it really made the hatching scene pretty dramatic, even though we all knew it would be a boy. Jasper and Ruby's romance is really cute and actually really well done, especially for Wings of Fire. I love the suspenseful scene of Ruby deciding if or if not to take the throne. However, excluding the reveal of who Cliff's dad is, way too much of the story is just presenting the audience with information we already know. I do wonder, though, if the information we learned in this winglet will become important later in the series. Book 16 is less than a month away. Overall, a really good 4-star winglet. Anyway, that's about all for this video, Sam-ariffic science fans. That was a long video. Stay tuned for Mocha's book ramble when I talk about my thoughts on Book 16. Next week, I'll also be talking about something very exciting, especially for older Sam-ariffic science fans. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.